Welcome back. You've made it this far. And if you're anything like the women that I have sat with, the pain you have been living with after a long term relationship has ended is really changing things for you. It's no longer just about the heartbreak. There are other things coming up now. It's been a little while, right? So now there are things like shame. What did I miss? Why wasn't I enough? How could I have let this happen? Questions that come up a lot. Women share them with me a lot. And as you look back at your life, instead of seeing the loving relationship that you had and all the love that you gave in that relationship, you start to notice the compromises you made, the effort that you poured in, and you start to see some of the failures. A story that says, I must have been blind. I should have seen it coming. But here's what I know, that voice inside of your head that is telling you that somehow you should have seen this and it should have been inevitable, that isn't the truth talking. It is the wound in you talking. When long-term relationships end, through betrayal or abandonment, it absolutely decimates us. It doesn't just break our heart, it cracks us wide open. It cracks us open and we start to think about, who am I? Where am I? What do I do in this world? What's important? What's not? What have I believed for my entire life? And is it real or not? Because you weren't just in love with somebody, you were part of a team, a connection, two people, two peas in a pod. You had routines together, values that you shared, memories, sometimes decades of memories, roles that you had, and they're all tied up together in this relationship you had. So when they leave, it isn't just about them walking out the door, because when they leave, they take part of you with them, part of what was with them. At least the version of you that was connected to them, the version of you that was part of that story for a long period of time. Women will often say to me, when the dust has settled a few months in, I don't know who I am anymore. Debbi, I feel like a ghost on my own life. That he was my anchor. Like I could trust the world because of him. And now without him, I just don't know what I'm doing. I'm floating around and I have no clue. The thoughts and feelings are really common because, relationships were our home, where we built our whole life. And it is like our home has collapsed. We got 1,000 questions. What happened? Was I stupid? Did he lie to me? How long did he lie to me for? Why didn't I leave earlier? Why wasn't I worth fighting for? And the one that cuts the deepest for so many women, which is what's wrong with me? There's nothing wrong with you. But they're the questions that rush around inside the heads of women when these things end. In this chapter of Heartbreak to Healing, I want to talk about what happens when the mirror cracks, when the vision cracks, when the picture cracks, when everything that you believed about yourself and your world gets really warped by the choices that somebody else made. And instead of putting the blame where it belongs, often with the other party, you start thinking there's something wrong with you. And we can internalize that whole story, right? And shame is the biggest liar in the world. It really is. Because shame will tell us you caused it, you allowed it, you deserved it. There was something innate about you that made this happen. And that is not true. Shame doesn't understand or get the fact that you stayed because you loved that person. You stayed because you trusted them, you believed in them, you built a life with them. Maybe you made vows and you really meant them. You tried to keep this relationship together because you really cared. As human beings, we long for love and connection. It is a really significant part of who we are. We want to belong somewhere. But as all of that starts to fall apart and you wonder what the hell you're going to do with your life, and you look around at the rubble around you that was once a life that you loved and thought would happen, and stay the way it was forever. Now you've got to look at the rebuild and what's going to happen from here on in. I am not the sort of person who's going to do some, let's all get in there and it's going to be fine. I'm not about fake empowerment. I'm not about that. Or pressure to reinvent yourself overnight. Straighten your crown, queen, here we go. It's not about that, not in the real world. We have to start from the wreckage, from the turmoil and the stillness. We have to look at it and we have to feel it and we have to be with it. And that's something that maybe you've never had to do before. When I talk about life, I often talk about my garden because my garden just seems to answer all the questions. In gardening, we talk about seasons and how every season matters. And right now, I think you're deep in the depths of winter. And winter for some is not a good time. It isn't a time to plant flowers because they're not going to bloom. But winter is about covering the ground. It's about keeping the ground protected from the elements. It's about tending to what's already there and making sure that it survives the cold, cold months ahead. Winter's about rest and protection and quietly planning what's coming next. In winter, we dream of spring. We want spring here today. We imagine what we'll plant, what'll grow, what we can't make space for anymore. Your spring will come, but not right now. And when it does, you're going to be ready for it if you do the work. Who you were before all of this is gone. The grief has stripped it all back. It's bare. And before your roots were buried under somebody else's shadow, you have to now build your roots in the ground that only you can look after and only you can take care of. It's your time now to start really looking after yourself, nurturing yourself, loving yourself, taking the best care of yourself, doing all the things that we do to the land to prepare it for the spring. Winter's important. We need winter as much as we need spring. In the next chapter, I'm going to be looking into some of the things that happen when our world falls apart and it feels like everything is shadows in front of us. I'll talk to you about your inner critic and how that nasty little voice inside your head that blames you for what happened and why it happened and how it happened is really not good for you. So we're going to deal with your inner critic next. But for now, I want you to breathe. Take it easy, one day at a time, 1 minute at a time if you have to. This is a cold winter, but winters are really important times too. You're still here, and that's the most important thing. Please do hit the subscribe button, hit the bell notification so you know every time a new chapter is coming out. I have a lot more information for you as you go through this process. Do come along and join me on Thursdays. I do live chats. We talk about all sorts of things, but you will be amongst women who understand very, very well what you're going through because they're going through it too. In the meantime, if you are really struggling, hit me up in the comments. I try and read all of them. You can also go along to my store. There is a survival guide there that'll help you with some really concrete things that you can do to manage some of the pain that you're going through. Take care of yourself. This is a difficult moment, but you have got this. You have.